Department and leadership from the city of North Kansas City. Before I begin, it is my obligation to state that the charge of an offense is not evidence of guilt and that defendants are presumed innocent until found guilty in a court of law. On March 2nd, police were dispatched to North Kansas City High School on the report of shots being fired. The investigation revealed that two groups of young men left a basketball game being played at the school a little before 6 p.m. A witness heard a person from the second group to leave yelling at the first group to leave while keeping one hand concealed. At that point, an individual from the first group drew a firearm and began shooting. At that point, three individuals from the second group then drew firearms and also began shooting. Dozens of people who had no relationship to these groups of young men were in the area when the shooting occurred. During the exchange of gunfire, two people were wounded. One was a person under the age of 18 who is not associated with either group. The other injured person was part of the first group of young men seen leaving the basketball game. Surveillance shows him falling to the ground while being shot at by several young men. He is then seen raising a black handgun and firing one time. Footage shows a total of 5 individuals from the two groups shooting firearms. Over 50 shell casings were recovered. 9mm, 10mm, 40 caliber, and 45 caliber shell casings were collected at the scene. Footage also indicates that all the individuals who were seen discharging firearms outside were in possession of loaded firearms while inside the North Kansas City High School gymnasium. I want to stress that this remains an open investigation, an ongoing investigation, which means that additional charges may be filed. I encourage anyone with any information relevant to these crimes to contact the North Kansas City Police Department. I also want to commend the men and women of the North Kansas City Police Department, the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, Liberty Police Department, the Riverside Police Department, and all the other law enforcement agencies that assisted in this investigation. Without their diligent work, we would not be here announcing charges today. I would also like to recognize all the first responders who were there that day that rushed to a situation that they did not have all the facts about in order to protect the citizens in our community. My prayers go out to the young man who was simply going to a basketball game when he was shot. I wish him a continued and complete recovery from his injuries. As a result of these events, my office charged 2 individuals with crimes today. The state charged Michael Smallwood with the following charges: the A felony of unlawful use of a weapon, in that on or about March 2nd, 2024, in Clay County, the defendant, acting alone or in concert with another, knowingly discharged a firearm at another person or persons, and as a result of the above described conduct, a victim suffered injury. That is an A felony, with a range of punishment between 10 and 30 years incarceration or life imprisonment. In count 2, the defendant is charged with armed criminal action, which carries with it a range of punishment of between 3 and 15 years incarceration. In count 3, the defendant is charged with the Class E felony of unlawful use of a weapon, in that on or about March 2nd, 2024, the defendant knowingly carried a loaded firearm, a weapon readily capable of lethal use, into a school. That is an E felony with a range of punishment of up to 4 years incarceration. After the state filed charges, the court set the bond on that defendant at $75,000. The second defendant is Lavondre Smallwood. He is charged in count 1 with the A felony of assault in the first degree, which also has a range of punishment between 10 and 30 years incarceration or life imprisonment. In count 2, he's charged with the felony of armed criminal action, which carries with it a range of punishment between 3 and 15 years incarceration. In count 3, he's charged with the A felony of unlawful use of a weapon, in that on or about March 2nd, 2024, acting alone or purposefully in concert with another, knowingly discharge a firearm at another person, and as a result of the described conduct, a victim suffered injury. Like I said, that is a felony with a range of punishment between 10 and 30 years incarceration or life imprisonment. In count 4, the defendant is charged with armed criminal action, which also carries a range of punishment between 3 and 15 years incarceration. And finally, in count 5, the defendant is charged with the E felony of unlawful use of a weapon, in that he knowingly carried a loaded firearm, a weapon readily capable of lethal use, into a school. No one should have to fear being shot when they go to a high school basketball game in Clay County. These events are meant to bring our community together. So my message to those who would come to our community, who would victimize our citizens, endanger our citizens' lives, is that you will be held to account and justice will find you inside a Clay County courtroom. With that being said, and understanding this remains an open investigation, an ongoing investigation, and there are open cases, I'm happy to answer a few questions.
So you said 5 years.
They are brothers.
Which one is older?
They're both adults, charged as adults. Lavondre Smallwood has a date of birth of February 16th, 2006. Michael Smallwood has a date of birth of March 14th, 2005.
So you said 5 people used guns. How many people were there in the 2 groups?
There were 5 people seen on surveillance discharging the firearms. Is that your question? How many?
Were there people in the groups that didn't pull guns as well?
There were people in the groups that were unarmed, or at least did not. There's no evidence that they were armed at this point, and there were also, dozens of innocent bystanders surrounding the area.
Zach, is there a beef here, or what was this dispute about?
It's still unclear exactly what the nature of the dispute was about. That being said, the probable cause statement indicates that there were words exchanged between the 2 groups before the gunfire began.
Do you know if the bullet that either of these men fired was one of the ones that hit the bystander?
I'm sorry?
Do we know if the bullet that either of these men fired was one of the bullets that hit the bystander?
So the investigation's ongoing. I know there's evidence at the lab being processed, so it's still very preliminary at this nature.
Do you know if anyone involved was a student at the school?
There is no indication that any of the parties that discharged firearms were students at the school or associated with the school directly.
Were they associated with the school of the team they were playing?
There's no evidence of that.
So they were just not playing?
That's the understanding, is that they were inside the North Kansas City Gymnasium watching the basketball game, and then sometime around 6 o'clock they came outside, and that's when words were exchanged and the gunfire erupted.
Do we know who these other people were? You're still trying to identify them?
Well, so like I said, this is an ongoing investigation. My goal in this process is not only to protect the integrity of the investigation, but the integrity of these ongoing criminal cases. So, I don't think it would be prudent at this point to disclose that kind of information.
So you mentioned that the 2 groups that were leaving, one of them had their hand concealed during the argument. Can you clarify again which group was the first to fire? Was the person with their hand concealed?
So there were 2 groups of young men. The first group is an individual with the first group was the one to shoot first, right? And then the person I described who yelled something at that first group with their hand concealed was in the second group.
Do you know if it's usually common practice during games at the school that has some kind of a security school?
I'm unfamiliar with the security practices in North Kansas City High School. That'd be a question better directed for North Kansas City.
As a prosecutor, a case like this take priority. Your hopes of incoming and your hopes of getting convictions.
So my goal in this case is the same as my goal in any case we prosecute in Clay County, and that's to find justice inside the courtroom.
How helpful were all of the witnesses that were inside of the gym and outside of that?
Well, so It's a complicated case. There were a lot of witnesses. I think the investigation was definitely assisted by the statements made by the witnesses at the scene. All right. If there are no more questions, I thank you for your time. So the Clay County Prosecutor's Office is not in possession of any kind of photos at this point.
And were firearms taken to the scene? You don't know how weapons were used.
Well, so I can say for sure, right, based on the fact of the shell casings recovered, right, there was 9mm, 10mm, 40 caliber, and 45 caliber handguns. And like I said, ongoing investigation when it comes to finding additional evidence.
Police Department care comments on this? Chief's here.
Thank you. Chief Kevin Freeman, North Kansas City Police Department. The basics of my comments today are just going to be leading towards, I appreciate all of the hard work that was put in on this case by our investigators, our detectives, the detectives from the partners that Mr. Thompson already mentioned. It was a collaborative effort, and very appreciative of Mr. Thompson's office of choosing to hold these people accountable for the crimes that they're committing in Clay County.
I know, as I asked you earlier, cases like this of severe nature, life-threatening nature, they take priority for the police to
They do take priority, but all in all, there's still other cases that come in and still other cases that need to be worked, and our detectives have been working very hard the last 2 weeks to make sure that we bring all of our cases to justice, whether it be in Clay County or North Kansas City.
One of my questions as a law enforcement officer, you want to keep this off your streets?
Absolutely, yes.
Can you expound a little on that?
No, we definitely want to keep this type of behavior off of our streets in North Kansas City. We want to keep it off the streets in anywhere in America. I mean, this is just unacceptable behavior of reckless endangerment of people's safety and lives.
So just to clarify, you have 2 people in custody, you're still looking for the other 3 that hold guns?
Yeah, I'll divert all questions relating to the ongoing investigation of Mr. Thompson and his office.
Do you know where any of them are from the area?
I don't have that information readily available to me.
Do you want to give any reassurance, maybe to public, people who are maybe scared to go back out to high school after this happened?
I would love to. Fact of the matter is, the world that we live in today, you never know about your safety, where you go. We see it all too many times right now. We saw it on the streets of North Kansas City. We've seen it in the streets of Kansas City at the Super Bowl parade. I want everybody to be able to go about their daily business safely, and it is our #1 goal to try to bring that to their desires. We have to work collaboratively with our community. We have to work collaboratively with the prosecutor's office and with our department to make sure that we can get that done. Thank you.
Tomorrow's Snake Saturday. What assurances can you give on that with another crowd coming to Northtown?
It's going to be sunny and 65 degrees, so it's one of the best weather days we've had for Snake Saturday in a few years. So we invite everybody to come out. We have taken some extra precautions for safety and security. I won't divulge what those are, but we are taking it seriously. We take it seriously every year, but we have stepped up our efforts a little bit more this year. We want to try to make sure that event is as safe as possible and that everyone can come out and enjoy what they're there to enjoy, much like the basketball game on March 2nd. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone for coming. So if there's no more questions, we'll go ahead and end the conference.